While Europe has a very rich cultural history, ranging from fine art and architecture to dance, poetry, and music, most people are unaware of the subtle external influences on European traditions, especially starting around the time of the Renaissance, but even earlier, from places like the ancient Middle East. I use the word ancient to differentiate between modern Middle East, which in many regards is a totally different place, both socially and in terms of demographics. In pre-Islamic Iraq and Iran, for example, which were once part of the Sumerian and Babylonian empires, we find that almost all of the ancient statues have blue eyes. A similar trait also evident in the ancient Egyptian statues of pharaohs and North African nobility, but is almost entirely missing in modern populations, which no longer share much of the cultural or genetic affinities with the people who established and governed those ancient civilizations in the past. This is also the case in ancient India, as the ancient Aryan civilization that introduced the horse, Sanskrit, and the caste system to the subcontinent that carved those amazing stone temples is a far cry from the modern civilization in India, of which hundreds of millions of people, close to half the modern population, do not even have a toilet, a statistic you can look up for yourself, such as from this BBC article that says, quote, only 46.9% of the 246 million households have lavatories, while 49.8% defecate in the open, end quote. So the point I'm making is the word Aryan, which some correctly or incorrectly define as nobility, was an ancient culture, not a modern culture. And what was millennia ago in a particular region is not the same as what one sees today, and in most cases is similar only in name, myth, and legend. The same can be said for the similar carved stone temples of Lalibela in Ethiopia, which legend says were built by blonde angels, which some have interpreted as being the Knights Templars around the 13th century. But even before the time of the Christian Crusaders, Ethiopia had a very different population, which is not only written about in ancient stories, which I've covered in other videos, such as the Queen of Sheba. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't seen it, but is validated through DNA analysis, which points to ancient migrations into Africa from fair-skinned farmers from the Middle East and Anatolia thousands of years ago, introducing agriculture and domesticated animals to the continent. The phenomenon of changing demographics is also seen in places like Asia, which is why every single depiction of Buddha in Thailand is always shown with blue eyes, a feature not seen in the modern population, or why China is littered with 4,000-year-old blonde mummies, many that are 6 foot 6 inches tall, with Caucasian features, found near Chinese pyramids, which resemble the pyramids of Egypt and are oriented in the same way as well. Even historic figures are depicted very differently, such as Genghis Khan or the Islamic prophet Muhammad, both of whom had red hair, despite some of the newer modern racial depictions of them, which were altered from historic reality to appease the changing demographics of the regions and cultures from which they arose from. So the point I'm making is modern ethnicities, from Japan to Peru, from Mesoamerica to Anatolia, worldwide, are very different, especially in terms of the ruling nobility, today than they were, for example, during the Bronze Age, which coincides with the Age of Aries, or the Aryan Age, when we had a period of mass expansion, which history documents as the Aryan invasions. That said, we can start today's episode. It's amusing to read remarks made by the 2nd century Christian writer, Justin Martyr, who accused the initiates of Mithras of imitating the Christian communion rite. While there are many similarities between Jesus and Mithras, a cult that existed in the Roman Empire prior to its adoption of Christianity by Emperor Constantine, such as Mithras' birthday being held on December 25th, when a solar feast was celebrated, or a text referring to salvation on the wall of St. Prisca Mithraeum in Rome that contained the words, when translated, quote, "And you have saved us in the shed blood." Or from Tertullian, a Christian Berber author, who states that followers of Mithras were marked on their forehead with a mark, which some have interpreted as being in the shape of a cross. In any event, the pre-Christian Mithraic mysteries of ancient Rome centered around the ancient Iranian worship of the Zoroastrian god Mithra, and was popular among the Roman military from the 1st to the 4th century, after which Mithraists faced persecution from Christians, and the religion was subsequently suppressed and eliminated in the empire by the end of the century. Worshippers of Mithras had a complex system of 7 grades of initiation and communal ritual meals, where they met in underground temples, most of which were destroyed by Christians. Initiates were united by a special handshake, the remnants of which can still be seen in modern secret societies, which I will cover in detail in a future video. In this presentation, I would like to shift the focus to some other Middle Eastern influences which were adopted by Europe, stemming from ancient Babylonian astrologers and astronomers. Much of what is now part of European secret societies was imported by the Knights Templar, such as the Black Madonnas, which have nothing to do with ethnicity or skin color, but is a veiled symbol of what some define as goddess worship, venerated by Gnostics from ancient Egypt, Cathars, Rosicrucians, and whose occult philosophy can be traced back to Babylon and even earlier. These mystery school teachings and practices were demonized by the Christian Church, rightfully or wrongfully, that's for you to decide, but they were outlawed, and so they went underground and were continued in secret. Understanding the origins and symbology of ancient belief systems will hopefully help bring about a better understanding of modern religious practices and traditions. Demons, genies, and disincarnate spirits permeate ancient occult traditions in the Middle East and neighboring countries. An early 20th century Persian manuscript on magic and astrology, held at Princeton's Department of Rare Books and Special Collections, provide a glimpse into this mystical world with dozens of watercolor illustrations of demonic, otherworldly creatures. A demon is a supernatural being, which is usually described as being an evil spirit or entity. But I would also like to point out that the original Greek word demon didn't carry negative connotations and was thought as an inner spirit or inspiring force. For example, Socrates claimed to have lived his life according to the dictates of his demon. Dated to 1921, Kitab Ajabi Makhluqat, which means wonder of creation, or the Book of Unusual Creations, includes an illustrated manuscript on magic and astrology, a book of spells listing incantations and talismans, and 56 painted illustrations of demons and angels. Several texts accompanying the illustrations in Farsi, an Indo-European or Aryan language from Iran, are dated from 1911 to 1921. A closing line at the end of the book suggests that it was composed of 2 main texts, it reads, "The book of the wonders of creation and 72 demons have been completed." Keep in mind that pre-Islamic Arabia included polytheistic beliefs, and Mecca itself was the place of worship for a goddess similar to Ishtar, and Allah was one of 360 demon spirits worshipped in what is now the Kaaba in Mecca. The ancient religion was based on astronomical concepts and centered around divination, which was performed by tossing arrows or darts at a statue of a deity in the center, and the direction which the arrows pointed were interpreted as answered questions asked of the idol. Women touched the idol as a token of blessing and kept away from it during menstruation. Today, idol worship, divination, and even women are forbidden from holy sites in Mecca, and during the annual Islamic Hajj pilgrimage, where they throw stones or 7 pebbles at walls, or what used to be pillars instead, which is called stoning the devil. The text describes the different demons associated with each zodiac sign, and the ailments associated with each, and some of the remedies. The zodiac demons are introduced as a series of menacing, although somewhat endearing, beasts, some multi-headed. Each is depicted with cuffs on its clawed or hoofed limbs, suggesting that these creatures had been bound or confined. Other illustrations show the monstrous demons in action, attempting to inflict harm on humans, with inscriptions of spells and incantations in Farsi, which describe ailments and the demons associated with them, together with instructions on how to exorcise them. So, for instance, one inscription instructs sorcerers to take a handful of soil from underneath the feet of the possessed person and repeat the following sentence 7 times. "God of the heavens and the earth, hurry, hurry, bring back, bring back, bring back the love for virtue." By contrast, the manuscript also includes illustrations of winged angels like Michael and Gabriel, who are summoned to expel demons and malign spirits. The author of the demonology book attributes his knowledge to the court of biblical King Solomon, who was believed to possess power over demons and spirits. However, the author's identity remains a mystery. The author signs the book as Ramalbashi, the son of Jafar. However, Ramalbashi is not a name, but rather a profession derived from the Farsi word Ramal, which means healer or sorcerer, a type of occult expert to whom people would frequently turn in the event that they had problems that couldn't be solved by normal means, such as sicknesses that appeared incurable, sort of like a witch doctor. They were usually sought primarily for divination, types of magic, breaking spells, exorcisms, and spirit summoning. Persian demonology has a long tradition that predates Islam. The Shahnameh, which means Book of Kings, a 50,000 verse epic poem written by the Persian poet Ferdowsi, is teeming with inscriptions of battles between humans, devils, and demons. Practicing ramals still exist in Iran, typically performing palm reading, faith healing, and exorcism, but they've been outcast to the fringes of society, usually ridiculed, as the official clerical establishment denounces them and anything to do with the world of the unseen, or with what Islam calls jinn, which in the West translates to genies. That said, these occult practices continue to thrive, not just in Iran, but also in neighboring countries, including many secret organizations which boast membership from some of the most prominent elite governing modern Europe. My name is Robert Sepehr. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my published books on Amazon. They make a great gift and is the best way to support my work. I would like to thank those who support me through Atlantean Gardens on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. There should be a link below for those that are interested. I would also like to thank anyone that has made a contribution during the live stream with a super chat, or anyone that shares these videos after viewing them, as I rely on word of mouth. Please remember to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for updates, And as always, I very much look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments section. So please leave a comment. Please have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you again soon.